Jumpin' Jehoshaphat, it's another Board Gems side-by-slide comparison. I'll be comparing the Reiner Knizia games Orongo from Ravensburger 2014 and the brand new 2025 version from CMON called Nyakuza. Nyan. Here are the games in question. Orongo is in a standard square box. Ticket to Ride-ish. I always say Ticket to Ride-ish, but there's a lot of square box games of this size now. People think it's really good for a Kallax shelf, but I don't see it. It leaves a lot of empty space. Anyway, the Nyakuza one, oh my god, I feel so silly saying that every time. Oof. Is square, but it's smaller in all dimensions, including thickness, which is nice. Same vital statistics, ages 10 and up, 2 to 4 players. Nyakuza says 45 minutes. I think Orongo says 30 to 45. It can be a touch thinky. My games usually go closer to 45. Orongo is trilingual, German, English, and French. Gameplay state. Nyakuza has less space devoted to text, which is good. But again, I just think it's interesting. So many games do this, right? They do the step-by-step thing, the 1, 2, 3, and 4 in this case. First, you place your resources, then you bid for your boats, then you net your resources, then you build your stalls. There's just some logic that has permeated the game publishing industry that this is the way to go. Step by step, I guess the idea is to give at a glance the sort of things you do in this game to see whether they're appealing to you so you don't have to read the big blurb. But I mean, a picture does wonders for that, don't it? It's so common nowadays. And I guess it's not bad, I just think it's interesting. Well, there wasn't really a point in me taking a photo of Orongo because I don't have the insert anymore. I got this game used and the previous owner threw away the insert. I wouldn't do that, well, unless I had like a bunch of expansions I had to fit in, I suppose. But just picture that there was probably, knowing Ravensburger, a green cardboard insert with a single big well. But I still took this photo because I did want to show you the Nyakuza insert, which is a very nicely organized plastic insert with space for the stalls. That's what the moai are now. Coins, the player colors, and a bag for the tokens. On the plus side, Orongo's rulebook is rectangular, not square. On the downside, it's a trifold, which I don't like, but as long as it's not square, it doesn't bother me that much. There is a rule that I originally found a bit ambiguous in how they phrased it in English as to how ties are broken. Ties are broken with the player who has the tiebreaker marker losing all ties, which ends up being a rule change in Nyakuza. Now, Nyakuza has just a single fold. Very easy rule book to work with. But yes, they did change that rule. So now ties are broken in favor of the person who has that token. Is one better or worse? No. I would say whichever version you have, just use the rule that's in that version's rule book. Here are the boards. Orongo's play area looks larger, but it isn't really. It does use the space on the board a little bit better, I think. Now, artistically, there is a big change, of course, without teaching the whole game here. The spaces that don't have things on them are just used to connect places that do have things on them, except the ones on the coast, on the edge of the play area. Those are where you can build your moai. And of course, they look the same. The difference is just some are on the edge and some aren't. And in Nyakuza, they really made that difference more obvious, so you can only build these stalls, that's what the moai are now, on these, I call them boardwalk spaces. Their attempt is to make it a little bit clearer that, these are where the stalls will go. I just have two relatively small problems with it. It's just, one is, of course, thematically, like you're going to build a stall here, who is going to buy your fish? Who's going to come out to this in the middle of the bay to buy fish? Right? But if you can get past the thematic slight bizarreness, it also has this effect of framing the play area. Visually, people kind of think this is the play area, this is the limitations of the play area, and it's a little bit easy to actually forget that there's a bit extra sticking out on the side here. out of one corner. Zooming in on one corner of the play area, all the spaces are numbered. I find the numbers make more sense in Nyakuza. I find it easier to find where things are when you're searching for a number than in the original. The hexes are more or less the same size, which is interesting because the tiles in Nyakuza are actually slightly bigger. Here are the player screens. Orongos are a really thick cardboard that have these, two wings that you insert. Makes them very steady. The Nyakuza screens are tall and thin and are a bit prone to falling over. But on the plus side, they have this cute artwork on it. And, I've played Like a Dragon. I always appreciate kind of badass Japanese with pompadour hairstyles. I love that that's a thing. Showing the back of the player screen, both show the same information, how you combine spaces in order to be able to build moai or stalls. Orongo has a little bit extra information, which is kept in the rulebook in Nyakuza, which is how many tiles come out based on number of players and based on whether it's the first round or second or later rounds. Orongo on the left, Nyakuza on the right, except for these things in the middle, I got them backwards, sorry about that. In the auctions, the player who wins the auction will go first and they will get this token. Yeah, obviously the one with the cat holding a fish in its mouth is the Nyakuza one. On the back are wooden moai in Orongo, which are now these cardboard stalls in Nyakuza. And what a pain in the butt these were when I first opened the game. To put these together, you fold them over and then you put this sticker on them to keep them together, and you do that 21 times. Very annoying. They did do a nice thing in making one extra special stall, because in the game you build all yours first and then there's like one public one. You have to build all yours first and then you can build the public one, and the person who builds a public one wins the game. It's just a clever way of not having to include quite so many pieces. But in Orongo, that extra one wasn't anything special, and now it is. The currency, which is in the foreground, are cardboard coins in Nyakuza, and they're plastic shells in Orongo. And there's pluses and minuses to both. You'll see later, but the plastic shells, when you place them on the board, they tend to move and roll around a bit. But they are very nice, and they are plastic, which I prefer to hold in my hand over cardboard tokens. You do blind bidding with a closed fist, and holding cardboard tokens in a sweaty fist is not preferred. I would prefer wood or plastic. But of course, they are flat, so they lay on the board and don't roll around. The tiles, I was surprised to find that the tiles in Nyakuza are noticeably larger, because the hexes don't look particularly larger, the ones that are on the board. It does mean that the hexes get a little crowded on the board. Because these tiles come out kind of in an odd order, sometimes you'll have to squeeze a hex in between two other hexes, and that's a little harder in Nyakuza, because the tokens are the same size as the hexes, whereas in Orongo they're slightly smaller. In all dimensions, they're also fairly thin compared to Nyakuza's. The symbology in Orongo is a little strange. The quarry one, which is the one that you only need one of, makes sense. Hey, there's stone here. Very easy to build a moai. The other ones make not so much sense to me personally. So that's now driftwood, lumber, which I guess helps you build a stall more easily because you got free wood. But like, are you making a stall to sell lumber? Again, that part feels strange to me. But like octopus and squid and the two different types of fishes, that makes sense when you have to pair them up. And the numbers are bigger because Nyakuza comes with a bag that you can put the tokens in. You can actually put the numbers on the backs of the tokens. The big number that you can find more easily. In the original Orongo, there was no bag that it came with, unless I got cheated in my used copy. Always possible. But no, instead you're supposed to just, mix them all up and keep them face down. These are the colored tokens that players place on the board to claim spots for themselves. They are round tokens in the original, and they are vaguely boat-shaped in the new. The new ones are quite nice. They're really thick plastic, but also the color is a bit fainter, and that can be good or bad, I suppose. Let's see if I can try to show you. So in Orongo, these tiles go onto spaces that have a somewhat round, light colored circle that are surrounded by dark jungle. And those are the empty blank spaces or the tokens that come out on the board. The colors stand out quite well from each other, I think. I'm not colorblind. It does include red and green, but they seem different brightnesses, like the red is really deep. It also means that some people might have a little bit of difficulty seeing through it to see the thing underneath because the colors are really deep. It really changes the look of the icons. Whereas in the new one, you see the color is comparatively quite faint. And so the artwork for the fish and crabs and whatever really comes out, really stands out. You can see it quite well through the colored tokens. It does have the effect, and it doesn't really come out here so much, but like in Orongo, all the places you put the tokens on are the same color, that kind of light green. But here they can be on dark blue, or they can be on these white tokens, or they could be on that sort of beige grayish boardwalk. And because the colors and the tokens are light, and so much of the color underneath bleeds through, it actually kind of changes the color that you perceive. So it doesn't show up very well in this photo, but for example, the purple boat on the white tile doesn't look too different from the red boat on the dark blue board. When these are all kind of mixed around and all the colors are kind of next to each other, it does take a moment for the brain to realize, okay, that's purple. Let's build a moai. Claimed all these spaces with my green tokens, and now I can build a moai. You can see the shells roll around a little bit, just for a second. Of course, if you move the board, they'll go all over the place, so don't do that. There you go. Now let's build a stall. So you got these coins that go on the board, and then we got the stall, cardboard stall, which kind of, that's not right. You have to move the token and put it on top, but then it kind of balances. A little odd. Now have a look at this 9 space because I'm going to add a tile to it. Doesn't look all that different, does it? Sometimes people have complained about Orongo in that it can be hard to tell when a token is on the board compared to when a token is not on the board because the spaces don't look different enough. So one thing I found that helps is to point out that all the spaces that you can put your discs are spaces that have light circles. They have a dark border, but inside is a light circle. Just the right size for your round token. Yeah, they probably could have done a better job. I did find when I play 3-player that I would sometimes take tokens of the 4th player and put them on as these are spaces that are now available, or just do it for new ones, like these are the new ones that have come on the board. So if that's a problem for you, then Nyakuza does address that. Of course, Nyakuza has its own problems, and one perhaps little one, but it was one that I noticed. These stalls, they're shorter than the moai, but they're wider and they take up more space on the board. And when you have a bunch of stalls on the board, it tends to block the view of the board a little bit more than the moai does, than the moai do. Moai is plural. So I don't know, it might be one of those things where, you know, like another game of Reiner Knizia's Medici, that maybe there will never be a perfect version of this game. Thanks for watching. Orongo's good. So is Nyakuza. And they don't stop being good just because newer games come out. See ya.